15% flat rate, what it would also enable us to do is for every citizen to fill out their taxes on a postcard.
We're reducing taxes to 15%. We're bringing corporate taxes down.
Have to get rid of all the deductions and all the loopholes.
Only if it's about 3 pages are you leveling the playing field.
My tax plan actually gets rid of the payroll tax as well.
You know, they just didn't agree on the moderators, but GOP contenders also agreeing on the need for tax cuts and big tax cuts and tax reform to get our economy back on track. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto. And if you think about it, they were tripping over themselves, right? Who offers the lowest tax? I was tempted to hear one of them say, no taxes for anyone, ever. We promise that in the next debate will be about taxes and your money, your job, because we're hosting it on Fox Business come November 10th. But enough about what we're planning, what you can plan from what these candidates are saying. And this issue of their positions on revenue coming into Washington. Charles Payne, Ben Stein, Dagen McDowell, and Charlie Gasparino, Julie Roginsky. By the way, Adam Lashitsi out this week. All this talk of tax cuts, he's just very sick. He'll come back next week.
When you say tax cuts, I sneeze.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Charles. The economy is slowing down. Again, we got some reminders of that. And the perfect prescription and elixir is tax cuts.
Yeah, how about letting people just keep more money, more of what they make? This way they'll go out and spend it. This way it'll start to circulate in the economy.
What if they don't? Do you ever worry about that?
I think, you know, it's interesting because you could argue, hey, what happened because there's the gas savings? That hasn't materialized. Right. But that's something different. I think most people consider that temporary. If they know that there's something solid, that their check is going to be larger. And to a certain degree, it is backward prosperity. I mean, it'd be really good if we had an economy where the whole thing was rising and we start making more money. But the idea is, how do we spark it? The Federal Reserve has tried. $4 trillion of phony money hasn't done it. But let people spend their own money. Let businesses spend their own money. Let them.
And by the way, whether they spend it or not, right, Gaspar? I mean, it's their call and not the government.
Never in the history of mankind has lower taxes led to more economic growth. There is no correlation.
In the Etruscan Empire, there was that brief 7-month period.
I am trying to. I'm imitating Ben Stein. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right? Am I right about that, Ben?
Well, Ben, you're not totally a fan. Right. They don't create the revenues, right?
Look, with all due respect, Albert Einstein, if he were injected with the blood of Milton Friedman, could not prove that lower taxes mean higher government revenue or a bigger, better economy. There's just no one's ever been able to make that connection. No one's ever been able to make that connection.
What happened under Ronald Reagan?
It's an interesting thing. Wait a minute. You are confusing an event with the causes of the event. Yes, we had considerable prosperity, but there were many reasons for that.
Well,
we were
why couldn't this be one reason? Why couldn't this be one major reason?
Moderation in inflation.
Wait, Ben,
it could have been a reason, but then we got very many tax cuts after that, and they have not led to. And they have not
well,
led
I will
to
say this, and Ben is right on this. Ben is right on this part, and Dagen, you can help me with this. Is that a lot of money was coming in fast and furious to Washington, and both sides were spending that money and then some. But the issue I think these candidates are raising, and here's where I give a tip of the hat to Rand Paul. He doesn't even care if his tax cuts are revenue neutral. I think 14.5 across the board. He wants to choke money coming into Washington.
Right, exactly. And based on, are you going to say that tax increases then aren't bad for the economy? Would anybody in their right mind say, hey, the economy is barely growing right now, we're going to raise taxes on the American people?
But we did, and it is growing, albeit slowly, but it is.
But right now,
it's
if you pass through a tax hike right now, I would argue that it would damage the economy significantly.
But wouldn't that have been the argument when we brought the top rate back up to almost 40%?
We just don't know.
Okay, so let's try on the backs of the hardworking American people. I want to add something.
What if it's just rich people like you?
Well, Ben says that we should raise taxes.
But wait,
I don't think.
Why do we have to sit here? Why do we have to sit here? Why do we have to sit here and prove? Why do we have to sit here and prove stuff that we can empirically prove, or we can get a bunch of economists in a room and they'll give us 15 different answers? Why can't we just say it's my money? I don't want the federal government to take my friggin' money.
I want to
that's a very simplistic point, but it's a very good point. Julie, what do you think of that? Who are you to tell us what we do with our money?
I'm sitting back and watching this because I actually.
Well, actually, you can't just watch; you have to participate.
Really? Because Ben's doing a good job for me. I don't really feel I have anything else to contribute aside from what Ben said, other than the fact that every time we've had I don't know, Bill Clinton in the White House raising taxes, the economy expanded at the highest rate.
Cutting taxes.
But he also cut taxes. He also cut taxes.
And so I'm looking at this debate stage the other night, and I'm thinking about all these people putting out their tax plans, and I'm thinking, something doesn't smell right here. I mean, you've got, I don't know, Ted Cruz talking about a 10% flat tax. He forgot to mention the vast, vast VAT tax on top of that he would put on services. He talked about Marco Rubio talking about his very equitable tax plan, forgot to say that the very rich among us would get a much larger tax break than the middle class.
Always do.
Actually, that was just proven that night.
They always justify giving
taxes.
tax breaks to their buddies at the same time as they're trying to balance the budget.
Well, we should just I know what you're saying, Julie, and you make a couple of good points. But Ben Stein, on this, I mean, obviously, the richer you are and you get a percentage cut, obviously it's going to result in more monies going to the rich. But leaving that aside, do you think that the Republicans did not comport themselves well by focusing more on how much you're going to cut your taxes and how they're not going to deal with the debt?
Dwight Eisenhower used to say every year we used to have a balanced budget. I'm too elderly to remember that. I'm elderly enough to remember that. None of the rest of you are. We had a great economy under Dwight Eisenhower. The idea of having a budget that isn't balanced,
we had a 90% tax rate under
idea. We had a great economy under John Kennedy when he cut taxes.
At the very, very top, that would only apply to you, Neil. But we want a balanced budget, at least in sight. At least
we had a great economy under John Kennedy, by the way, who cut taxes.
I want to add something related to simplifying the tax code. We have an IRS that is powerful and dangerous, that has been wielded as a political weapon. If you simplify the tax code and reduce it from the tens of thousands of pages that it is, you basically take that power away from the IRS.
I understand that, but is it unrealistic for Carly Fiorina to say reduce it from 74,000 pages to 3? First, I thought she's saying 3,000. No, she's just saying 3 pages. So is that realistic?
Well, Donald said one.
Yeah, I mean, they all make that promise, but I think the thing we haven't hit on is the spending. We keep talking about revenue to the government. If they get $4 trillion, they spend $5 trillion. If they get $5 trillion, they spend $6 trillion. If they get $6 trillion, I mean, that's what we've got to deal with.
See, I would have liked to heard more of the other side of the ledger. I'm fine with it if that's the way you want to go, but are you going to address this?
From a political messaging standpoint, I think they fell down, and maybe Julie can help us with this because she does this stuff for a living, this is our money. This is not the federal government's money. None of them made that point. The federal government doesn't have an absolute right to my money. They have some right to it, not an absolute right.
But a lot of Americans will tell you that's our stuff, too. We want our stuff with your money.
That is a conservative argument.
That's why people don't talk about why more candidates did not talk about entitlement reform. They won't touch it. Because people want their stuff.
And let me talk to you about what Charlie said. Every time somebody says,
I just heard him. I just heard him. You don't have to repeat what he said.
I'm going to actually address what he asked me to. You don't want to send your money to Washington or to your state capitals? Great. Who's going to take care of those roads that you drive on? Who's going to pay for your kids to go to school?
The roads we drive on. Give me a break. We've been talking about an infrastructure crisis for the last 40 years. After we raise taxes, we still have an infrastructure crisis.
Because these states are having their transportation trust funds go broke.
You take my money, you liberals take my money and waste my money.
What am I wasting your money on? I just want to fund your roads and your schools and your bridges.
Here's why. Because I remember Ross Perot. I remember so many candidates running on a platform of an infrastructure crisis. Bill Clinton, they raised our taxes to pay for this infrastructure crisis, and we and we still have an infrastructure crisis. You are wasting my money. You don't deserve my money.
I don't deserve your money? Well, who's going to deserve the fact that you're going to, next time you go to New Jersey, the Pulaski Skyway is going to fall because nobody wants to invest any money in a road?
Because you wasted my money.
Hey, did you just say New Jersey?
Yes.
Okay, I thought you did. I just wanted to double check.
The Garden State, their transportation trust fund
the bottom line, though,
Charles Payne will have to find a word.
The bottom line, Julie, is that the scare tactics just don't work. Yeah. To Charlie's point, we have been told this. We had a stimulus package. Okay. We've had it over and over and over again. Yes, we want more of our money.
And by the way, in New Jersey, that's rude.
Jersey?
Hey, you know what? Even the next time you try driving in the roads from New Jersey, from your house in Jersey here to New York, you're not going to get there because the road's going to collapse under you.
$100 billion plus a year going to that through all sorts of means. I don't know where that money's going, but you're quite right. It's not going to infrastructure. All right, and you want to pour more money into that to see how that goes. All right, we'll see. By the way, these are the type of issues that come up. I will use a variety of accents as well, including that New Jersey one, which I think is a Jim Dandy. FBN's big debate. We're there on November 10th in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Exactly. It is a clothing optional evening, so we urge you to tune in.